Have you ever been a bit bored of vanilla CK3? Do you want to try something new? Well, today is your lucky day, because I want to review one of the most popular mods in Crusader Kings 3, which is the Lord of the Rings Realms in Exile mod, and is obviously based off J.J.R. Tolkien's books. This was one of the earlier mods that came out when CK3 was released. At the time of release though, it obviously did feel a bit unfinished, which is understandable considering the length of time they had to do it. Fast forward to nowadays though, the mod is receiving a significant update, and the recent update last year has made this mod one of the best fantasy mods in Crusader Kings 3. Total conversion mods are definitely up there for me, since it feels like you're playing an expansion with completely new mechanics. One example of this is the CK2 Game of Thrones mod, which I'm sure most Crusader King fans absolutely love, and it brings a completely new aspect to the game. Let's therefore go into detail as to what makes this Lord of the Rings mod so good. Also, if you like these sorts of videos, make sure to subscribe, as we're going to release more Crusader Kings 3 content soon. So firstly, probably one of the best features of this mod is the map. When you go into the game, the monuments give you a great deal of immersion for wherever you play in. Want to play in Mordor? You can see the fires of Mount Doom, and smoke coming out of a volcano. Over the mountains, you also have Minas Tirith. Not only have they made this part of the map interesting, but zooming around, you can see all the really detailed monuments in Lord of the Rings, and it certainly gave me a bit of nostalgia. Going to the impassable terrain in the northern part of the map, you can also see these monuments in this barren wasteland, which I suggest is a sign to come that they will eventually build up this part of the map, although currently the modders are focusing on the south part of the map. I'd really like to play as Frodo at some stage. Currently, the two main centerpieces of this mod are of course Mordor and Gondor, which we can see here. This is closely followed by Riddermark and Erensguard, which are controlled by two main characters of Lord of the Rings, and I'll discuss these people later. I'm honestly very excited to see how this mod evolves, and there's definitely plenty of potential to improve this mod as time goes on. We are first going to investigate the evil kingdom of Mordor, which is led by none other than Sauron. With the division of men and bad relationships between Gondor and Rohan, Sauron is preparing to attack Gondor and spread evil throughout Middle-earth, which is definitely a good campaign idea. The way the mods put together this region is quite interesting. Mordor is surrounded by mountains, and it has many petty orc lords, all pledging their allegiance to Sauron. Mordor also has its own unique religions and characters within its borders. The cult of the Lidless Eye is the main religion of Mordor, where Sauron can see everything. In terms of characters in Mordor, two stand out for me. Firstly, we have the Witch King, situated in Minas Morgul. There's a really interesting backstory about him, where he killed the last king of Gondor, and the place the Witch King's situated in, Minas Morgul, was one of the big palaces of Gondor, but now it's been taken over by the orcs. I have to admit, the 3D character design of the Witch King is really impressive, and he's probably quite an interesting character to play as. You also have the Blind Sorcerer of Nurn, so if you want to play as someone besides an orc, you can always go as this person as well. Ultimately, there's quite a lot of campaigns to choose from in this region. If you want to play tall though, you can always just do dark ritual activities all the time. The other big region of this mod is the Kingdom of Gondor, which is led by the steward Denethor II, and he is the father of one of the main Lord of the Rings characters, Boromir, who is his heir at this time. One nice touch in my campaign is that Boromir was a forest fighter, so perhaps this is referring for when he took a last stand against the orcs. If you play as a steward at the start of the campaign, you have the decision to gaze into the Palantir of Minas Morgul. This can either give you stress, or some sort of positive bonus that can benefit your character. I quite like this sort of lottery at the start of the game, and it just adds a bit of flavour. The Kingdom of Gondor also has its own decisions, as well as its unique men-at-arms regiments. A good campaign idea would probably be to go out and take down Mordor. If you play as Gondor, you can eventually build special buildings in Minas Tirith, as well as having events that eventually lead to the return of the king, which this kingdom so desperately needs to fight Mordor. Moving up slightly from Gondor, you also have Isengard, which is controlled by Saruman. Saruman at the start of the campaign has the Orthanc Stone, allowing you to convert the cult of the Lidless Eye and become evil. He is one of the only wizards in Middle-earth at this time, so sadly can't have any children, but does gain a unique wizard trait. A great campaign idea would probably be to invade Riddermark, and eventually control Middle-earth for yourself. Hopefully at some stage, the Ents in the forest next to Isengard can be added into the game, giving this region a bit more flavour. Next to Isengard, you also have Riddermark, or also known as Rohan, which is led by King Theoden. Interestingly enough, Theoden's son is also alive at this time. We also have the infamous Grimmer as the Spy Master. The two major locations within this kingdom is of course Adoras in the capital, and Helm's Deep, which is one of the hardest fortresses to conquer, having over 4,000 men garrisoned there. Riddermark also has a unique horse regiment, and a trait of Horsemaster, so you can just picture the Riddermark cavalry riding out as you conquer all the territories around you. Finally, I want to talk about the more obscure kingdoms of this Lord of the Rings mod. They aren't particularly well known in comparison to the other kingdoms we've previously spoke about, but nonetheless, these kingdoms can still offer you interesting gameplay. King Suladan, who is known as the Serpent Lord, owns one of these kingdoms in the sand, and is considered a mysterious being, perhaps even a monster of sorts, according to the soldiers of Gondor. It is believed he died in the Battle of Pelennor Fields, but perhaps you could change his fate and conquer Middle-earth with the Serpent King. Below the Kingdom of the Sands are home to the Lord of Umber. The people of Umber, years before this start date, fled here and took over the region. This was a time of weakness for this faction, and many of them turned to piracy. With the War of the Ring approaching, the Umbers need to recover in order to make a difference within Middle-earth. They were only able to do a small amount of damage, and raided the coast of Gondor to draw off major forces from the defence of Minas Tirith. Looking at both these places, we do see these kingdoms in the Lord of the Rings movies, with the Corsairs of Umbar being killed by the Ghost Army, and the elephants in the last battle. I think it's great that the modders have added more obscure kingdoms, and hopefully this can bring you a more interesting campaign. Ultimately, there's still a long way to go for this mod, and it's nowhere near done, but the fact this mod has become one of the most popular mods in Crusader Kings 3 just gives you a glimpse into how amazing this is now, and how it's going to be way better in the future. With Crusader Kings 3's new DLC coming out soon, who knows how this mod could progress in the future. Thank you guys for watching, I hope you enjoyed yourself, and make sure to subscribe. Shout out to our Patreons, Jado52, Kargon, Flyerton and Henriki.